بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه تسليما كثيرا. After this, Ikhwani, in the Bab of knowledge today, we're going to deal with a pretty famous mas'ala here. Just want to shed light on it. A lot of kalam concerning it, and people talk about it just looking at it from one angle, but it has multiple angles that need to be considered. And it has a lot to do with us being a Muslim minority in this place where we have this issue of marrying the women from Ahlul Kitab, the women from the Christian faith. What is the ruling concerning that? And as I mentioned, it's not fair or just, it's not intelligent to look at it from just one ayat and one side, and just to say open-ended is permissible or it's not permissible. But let's listen to what the scholars of Al-Islam have said about it, so that we can have a good understanding and a good grasp of the reality of the issue, along with the varying proofs. Because there are those people who say it is not permissible to marry a woman who's a kitabiyah because she makes shirkun with Allah Azza wa Jalla. She makes shirk. And we're not allowed to marry women who are mushrikeen, just as Muslim women are not allowed to marry men who are also disbelievers. So let's look at all of the sides of the issue and let it become clear, and we make a decision. At least we can have a comprehensive understanding. So the first thing is that we should know that the scholars of Islam, they have differences of opinion in the issue. So therefore, it's not okay for anyone to take one of the two sides and to be rough and tough against the people of the other side. Because scholars said this, who are bona fide, and they're very big scholars, and others said that. And they're also big, and they're bona fide, and they're heavy in the scales. The majority of the ulama, the Jamhur, said that it is permissible to marry these women who are from Al-Kitab, the Christian women, who say that Isa is the son of Allah, and other than that. That's the majority of the scholars, so you remember that the Jamhur of the ulama say that it's permissible. It doesn't necessarily make a thing right because the Jamhur took a particular position. The position is with the Dalil. But when we hear that the majority of the scholars took a position, we have to have some kind of respect for that. That's the majority. But it is not automatic that the Jamhur of the ulama are correct. It's not. Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, on the day of the Murtaddeen, when he said, I'm going to fight these people who have apostated, the Jumhur of the companions, they said, we're not supposed to fight them. It's not okay to fight them. These people say, La ilaha illallah. Abu Bakr was all by himself. He was all by himself. So the majority of the people who had the other opinion, because they're the majority, it does not make the issue wrong or right. We have to look at the dalil. We'll start off, inshallah, with the easy position, or I think the easy one to memorize, and that is the position that it is not permissible to marry women of the book, Christians, especially the way that they're doing, the Christians, women who are Christians who are doing what they're doing. And this is the position of Abdullah ibn Abbas, it's the position of Abdullah ibn Umar, it's the position of Abdullah ibn Abbas's students, Qatada, Mujahid, it's the position of that great scholar from the Tabi'een, Sa'id ibn Musayyib, Sa'id ibn Jubair. That alone, those are very, very large scholars. During a lot of times, Al-Hafid ibn Kathir and others said it's not permissible. And they have their proof that it's not okay for a Muslim man to marry a woman who's a Christian if she is saying that Isa is the son of Allah. But if she's a Unitarian Christian, those Christians who don't believe Isa is the son of Allah, and they're not a lot, but if they're like that, then it's permissible. The companion, may Allah be pleased with him, Abdullah ibn Umar, from what was collected by Imam al-Bukhari, whenever people will ask the companion Abdullah ibn Umar, is it permissible for a Muslim man to marry a Christian lady? Abdullah ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, said, verily Allah has made it haram for the Muslim men to marry, for the Muslims to marry mushrikat, women of polytheism. He said, and I don't know any shirk that is bigger than the person who says that Isa ibn Maryam is the son of Allah, when in fact he is Abdullah from the servants of Allah. So that's the dalil in the statement of Abdullah ibn Umar. Inna Allah harram al-mushrikat ala al-mu'minin. ولا أعلم من الإشراك شيء أكبر من أن تقول إن عيسى هو ابن الله وهو عبد من عباد الله. So Allah has made it haram. Where did Allah make it haram? Why did Abdullah ibn Umar say that? Allah has made it haram to marry women who make shirk. The first ayat is the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَا تُنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنَّ. You men, do not marry the disbelieving polytheist women or making shirk. Don't marry them until they believe. That's the first ayat. Allah made it haram to marry the mushrikat. وَلَا تُنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنَّ. Don't marry them until they believe. The second ayat is the prohibition, وَلَا تُمْسِكُوا بِإِسْمِ الْكَوَافِرِ. When one of you accepts al-Islam, you accept al-Islam, and you were married to a woman who did not accept al-Islam, Allah said, do not hold on to these women. Don't hold on to the women who are with you. Don't hold on to them when they are disbelievers. Disbelievers. So this is the position and the dalil of those scholars who say it's not permissible. Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Abbas, many of Abdullah ibn Abbas's students, one of the greatest of the tabi'een, Sa'id ibn Musayyib, Sa'id ibn Jubair. May Allah be pleased with him. That's their point of view. We're going to come back because we did a class in the Abwab of Al-Ilm, that when you have these different opinions, we have to be able to deal with the dalil of each group. You have to be able to deal with it. You can't just take a position and there are proofs that are facing you and you just leave it like that. Or how else would you take the position? Because you're being confronted with some proofs. So we'll come back to that, inshallah. As I mentioned, the majority of the ulama from the companions and the scholars of Islam, they said it's permissible to marry Christian women who say that Jesus is the son of Allah, one of three, and so forth and so on. They said, but this is important. It's permissible, but it is disliked. You shouldn't do it if you can help it. It's not something that a Muslim man should just go and do because he has the ability to do it. They said, if you have circumstances that put you in that situation, then it's permissible, but it is makruh. The thing that is makruh is the thing that it is disliked that you do it, but if you do it, you're not sinning. But they did not encourage a person just to go and marry a Christian woman. And that's because of the fitna and fasad that's going to come. Usually when you marry a woman from another religion like that and she's making shirk, cooks with khamr, eats khinzir, Christmas, Easter, so forth and so on. And being fair and just, there are some women who are Christians who have good manners. They have good akhlaq. They're loyal, they're intelligent, they're clean, they're loving, they're good mothers. And there are some Muslim women who are the opposite of that. They have bad akhlaq. They're not loyal, they're not clean, and so forth and so on. You have that. That's just how it is. There are some Christian women in their behavior. You can find that in their behavior. And you have some women who are the opposite of that in the religion, from the Muslims. But as I mentioned, those scholars, they knew what they were talking about, like anybody else who knows someone who's married to a Christian. There's going to be some issues. But again, a Muslim man can be married to a Muslim woman, and there are issues. There are issues. But the issue of a shirk is bigger. The children being exposed to that and all of that. So they said it's permissible, but it is disliked. You know the hadith about the Muslim man wanted to marry a Muslim woman. The Prophet al-Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, men marry women for 4 reasons. Women are married for 4 reasons that a man will look and take a wife. Number 1, because she's beautiful, she's attractive. Number 2, because she has money, so he marries her and he's going to share in her wealth, like the Prophet did with Khadija sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah be pleased with her. The 3rd reason is she comes from a good lineage. She comes from a good family, so he marries her. The 4th and final reason is she has good deen. He said, marry the one with the deen and you'll be successful. فَاظْفَرْ بِذَاتِ الدِّينِ تَرَبَتْ يَدَاكِ. Marry the one with the deen. It's permissible to marry her because she is beautiful, nice looking. Every time you look at her, when you see her, she makes you happy. There's nothing wrong with that. Every time you tell her to do something, you look at her, she makes you laugh. She's going to give you her money and you're going to enjoy that. Do business, whatever. The word how much is not in the vocabulary. Number 3, she comes from a good lineage. Marrying a woman from a good lineage is not like marrying a woman who has no lineage at all. Or she comes from the lowest of the people in her community. Those group of people are considered to be the lowest of the people for whatever reason. As a matter of fact, it's not recommended that a person marry someone like that if it's going to cause you trouble. It's going to cause you trouble. People are going to look at you. They're going to put you down. But we should, what is that sound? I thought that was your watch. So listen, Ikhwani, marry the one with the deen, you'll be successful. So that's with the Muslim woman. What about the one who has no deen? She has no deen. They have one strong dalil. We'll stick with that dalil and then explain why they said it and also explain how they push the other people's dalils away. Not push the other people's dalil away as if it doesn't mean anything, but dealing with the dalil that the other side is using. What's the other side? That it is not permissible. So for the ones who say it's permissible in there, the majority of the ulama is the ayat in Surah Al-Ma'idah, the table spread. Allah told the Muslims sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, al-yawm uhilla lakum at-tayyibat wa ta'amu alladhina utul kitab hillun lakum wa ta'amakum hillun lahum والمحسنات من المؤمنات والمحسنات من الذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبلكم إذا آتيتموهن أجورهن محسنين غير مسافحين ولا متخذي أخدان. Today, your food is permissible for the people from Ahl al-Kitab. And today, their food is permissible for you. And we're going to deal with that issue as well. Your food is permissible for them. Their food is permissible for you. And permissible for you to get married are the believing women who are upright and virtuous and chaste. And for you, also permissible for you to get married are the women from Ahlul Kitab who are chaste. And then Allah described them and He said about them, muhsinat, غير مسافحات ولا متخذات أخدان. They are those women who have good, pure, they're pure. They're not women who are making zina, and not the one who's the girlfriend. She's your girlfriend, your partner. It's not that one. That one is impermissible to marry. So that's the deal for the people who said that it's permissible to marry the lady in Surah Al-Ma'idah. Now, concerning the position of the people who said it's haram. They said that Allah has made it haram for the Muslim to marry the mushrika, the women who are polytheists. And as Abdullah ibn Umar said, I don't know any ishraq, any shirk that is bigger than someone saying that Isa is the son of Allah and he is Abdullah from the Abid of Allah. So they're making shirk. So the majority of the scholars said, when Allah Ta'ala mentioned in those ayat, mushrikat, can't marry the polytheist women, they said that those ayats are general. Don't marry polytheist women. It's a general ayat. It's open. Any woman who's making shit, don't marry her. Sikh, Hindu, don't marry anyone who worship idols, anyone. It's open. It's am. The hukm is general. This ayat from Surah Al-Ma'idah, it makes the takhsis of that ayat. And the takhsis, I guess you can describe it as, don't marry mushrikat. That's general. Don't marry any of them. But this other ayah has come and it has said, but you can marry the Christian who makes shirk. So it makes an exception. How would you say takhsis? So this ayah is saying, don't marry anyone who is making shirk. But this one ayah, it came and it said, with the exception of the Christian girl, you can marry her. She making shirk. That's one way that they dealt with these ayat. وَلَا تُمْسِكُوا اسم الكوافر. وَلَا تُنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكَاتِ. Don't marry any of them. But the one that you can marry is the Christian. Why the Christian? Why the Christian? Because she has a deen that came from the Sama. She has a book that came from the Sama. And although it's been changed and altered and everything like that, and she may not even be practicing where she prays and things like that, but nonetheless, the origin of the deen is that it is a religion that comes from the heavens. Whereas Hinduism, Sikhism, Buddhism, those things don't come from the heaven, and they don't have any book that Allah Ta'ala has revealed along with them. No prophets who came, sharing that information with the people, calling the people to that shit, to those religions. From the very foundation, those religions are shirkun billah, kufrun, polytheism. That's one statement. The other statement that they said, and this is important as it relates to the Quran, Allah Ta'ala has mentioned the Christians in many ayat along with different categories of groups. He mentioned the Jews, the Christians, the Sabi'in. He mentioned a lot of people, the Majus, and he mentioned the Mushrikeen. And whenever Allah Ta'ala mentions all of those different groups together, Ahlul Kitab, they have a special, they are meant uniquely by themselves. Although they make shirk, they are mentioned in those ayat, in a lot of ayat. They have a special meaning in all of the ayat that mention multiple categories of people. From those categories or those ayats is what Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ وَالْمُشْرِكِينَ فِي نَارِ جَهَنَّمَ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا. Verily those people who make shirk and the Ahlul Kitab, Yahud and Nasar. Allah is talking about a group of people here, the mushrikun who make shirk, and he's talking about different situation here, although they make shirk. Another example of that is quite a few. إن الذين آمنوا والذين هادوا والنصارى والصابئين والمجوس والذين أشركوا إن الله يفصل بينهم يوم القيامة. Look at these groups of people. Verily those who believe, and those who are Jews, and those who are Christians, and those who are from the Sabi'in, and those who are Majus, and those who make shirk, Verily, Allah is going to judge between them, separate them, Yawmul Qiyamah. Separate them because they're all different categories of people. So whenever Allah mentions Ahlul Kitab, along with those other group of people, Ahlul Kitab is unique and special. So therefore, a special ruling has been given for their women. So the people who say that it's permissible to marry the Christian girl who's making shit, the woman's making shit, they say, number one, the ayat are general, don't marry mushrikat. But the ayat from Surah and Ma'idah comes and makes an exception. And to prove that exception is whenever the Christians are mentioned along with the mushrikeen and other people, they are a unique, distinct group of people. Another ayat from the mini ayat, and you go back and you check all of the ayat where the different categories are mentioned, you'll find it. He mentions subhanahu wa ta'ala, لم يكن الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب والمشركين منفكين حتى تأتيهم البينة. Allah made the mushrikeen a group and he made Ahlul Kitab another group. The ayah said in the Quran, إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات والذين هادوا والنصارى والصابئين من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وعمل صالحا فلهم أجرهم عند ربهم, to the end of the ayah. So I think that's pretty clear that the scholars who the majority say you can't marry those women, they said they have been given a unique special ruling because they're different from all of the other ones. So as a result, it is permissible. Now that's the ruling and what the two sides use. The majority say that it's permissible, but it's disliked because of the problems going to come as a result of it, potentially. If you think there's going to be a problem that is, and more than likely there will be problems, you should avoid it. It should be only circumstances that are really, really, tough circumstances. Not just the man says, I want to get married, so I'm going to go marry a Christian. Not like that. He's living in a place and he can't find any Muslim women. Any Muslim women. He accepted Islam and his wife doesn't accept Islam and she's a Christian. And they have children or not, and he wants to stay with her. But just to go, get on a dating application, and he wants to just marry Christian women is something that should be avoided. وَالطَّيِّبَاتِ لِلطَّيِّبِينَ وَالطَّيِّبُونَ لِلطَّيِّبَاتِ, like Allah said, the good women are for the good men pure, and the pure men are for the pure women. Shirk and kufr is not purity. It's not purity. Now, last thing we want to mention, Ikhwan, this is really, really, really important, is those scholars who said it's permissible to marry the women from Ahlul Kitab, they said it is disliked, and they also said there are conditions. There are things you should consider. You shouldn't just go and deal with anybody. The first thing they said that you have to consider is that has to be considered. She's a Christian, but she's a Christian who believes in Yawm al-Akhir. The way she believes in it, she knows there's a last day. She believes in her book, the Injil, the Torah. She believes in that. She also believes in the prophets and the messengers. She can't be a Christian who is a mulhida. She's a Christian who is a zindiqa. Her religion, understanding. She's a Christian and she doesn't know what she's doing. She doesn't really believe in Christianity. She was born in America. Her parents are Christians. And whenever she goes for a job or whatever, and they say, what's your religion? She said, Christian. But she doesn't really believe in any of that. They say, you can't marry that individual because she's not a real Christian. She's just a Christian by name. She has to have some kind of iman in that stuff, even though it may be wrong. And even though she may be worshiping Isa ibn Maryam, making dua to Isa ibn Maryam, being afraid and all that stuff. So that's the first thing. Second condition that has to be considered, and this is absolutely imperative, is that she has to be a woman who's upright. She can't be a person. She could be a person who is really practicing Christianity. But if you go into the Christian church, especially African-American churches, not just our churches, not just their churches, but if you go into African-American churches, you will find the women are dressing in a way that is inappropriate. And very seldom would the preacher even draw that to the attention of the people. Very seldom. She wears tight clothes, tight pants, short dresses. All of her mahasin are out. As a matter of fact, people go there to meet other people, to have relationships. And that's a fact. The vast minority of churches place emphasis on the way people should come to church. Although in their book, the Injil, they've been told how to dress. They've been told men and women should be separated in their church. That's their religion. In their book, women should cover up their hair when they come to church. And all kinds of things. But the Christians of today, they don't practice almost anything of their religion. And what they eat, what they drink, how they exist, Christianity comes into play during the holidays or when one of them is in trouble, for the most part. So they said that those scholars, if a man had to marry a Christian girl because of, his circumstances, then she cannot be a woman who is loose and lewd. She has to be afifa. She has to have, she's a woman who she don't allow hands to touch her and stuff like that. She doesn't allow that. That's because in the ayat of Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah described that you marry the pure women and the ones who are not having partners. They're not having sexual partners, akramakumullah. They're not loose women. If they're loose girlfriends, they're the ones who can't be married. That's the second thing that has to be considered. The third thing that has to be considered is that Christian woman, her people cannot be at war with Al-Islam. And at war with Al-Islam doesn't mean France and Germany, America. They are Islamic phobic. They're Islamophobes, and they're threatened by our religion. So they try to paint a bad picture of our religion. So they are at war because there is a war of civilizations. That is a fact. But it's not talking about that. It's talking about really at war with these people. They're fighting the Muslims. They're fighting and they're killing the Muslims, and the Muslims are fighting them, killing them. So if you are actively engaged in a war with people from Ahlul Kitab, it's not permissible, those scholars said, to marry from their women because of the ayat that prohibit that. This is the position of a number of those scholars who said that it is permissible to marry them. But if this is happening, it's not permissible. From that is what Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, قَاتِلُوا الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَلَا بِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَلَا يُحَرِّمُونَ مَا حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ وَلَا يَدِينُونَ الدِّينَ الْحَقِّ مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ حَتَّى يُؤْتُوا الْجِزْيَةَ عَنْ يَدٍ وَهُمْ صَاغِرُونَ. This ayat told the Muslims to fight against those people who don't believe in Allah, and they don't believe in the last day. And they don't make haram what Allah make haram, and what His Messenger make haram. And they don't practice the real true religion, the religion of Al-Islam. Fight those people from those who, this is their description, from those who have been given the book. Fight them until they give the jizya. And when they give the jizya for the protection that they pay that money in the past, they pay that money to the Muslims, they're allowed to live there and they won't be harmed. But they have to pay that jizya. Those scholars said, we Muslims have been allowed to marry a group of Ahlul Kitab and prohibited from marrying a group of Ahlul Kitab. From the Ahlul Kitab that we have been allowed to marry are the ones who we have a contract with, like the contract of the jizya. They're paying the jizya. They have an ahd. So therefore, you can marry them. But those who are at war with us and there's no contract, you can't do that. The other ayah said, لا تجد قوم يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر يُوَادُّونَ مِنْ حَادَ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ. Although he was from, and then those people mentioned. You will not find a group of people who believe in Allah in reality, true Iman. They believe in Allah and they believe in the last day. You won't find them showing love towards those people who wage war against Allah and His Messenger. Even if those people are their fathers, even if those people are their brothers, even if those people are their tribesmen, even if those people, and on and on and on. Even if those people are his wife and his wife's people from Ahlul Kitab. So they said this individual can't be married. The one who is actively engaged in fighting the Muslims and they don't have a contract. 4 and last one, number 4. The Christian that should not be married is the one who, in marrying her, there's going to be some harm, social harm, there's going to be some harm. And there are a lot of examples that the scholars gave. One of them is, you're living in an environment, in a society where the Muslim women are few. They're few. And there are non-Muslim men knocking on their door trying to marry them. And some of them are weak, and their parents are weak. And then they allow their daughters to marry non-Muslims. So that lady loses her religion and her children lose their religion because of their condition. So the scholar said, in this situation, there's going to be harm. So therefore, you shouldn't get married to a Christian here and leave the Muslim lady, for an example. This is an example. You're going to marry her, and whatever the darar is something is going to happen. You think, and you know, it's going to be more harm. They said, for this reason, the Amir al-Mu'mineen at that time, Umar, in the famous incident, he wrote to Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman and those Muslims who were in Asham, living with the Christian women, and the Christian women of Palestine and Jordan and Syria. The women from that area are lighter in color than the Arabs who are in the Arabian Peninsula. They are darker. So they found those lighter women, Arabs, attractive. They found them attractive. In their poetry, they talk about their attractiveness in the color. Nothing wrong with that. So when Umar saw that a lot of the Muslim men from the companions and the men who were out there who were taking care of the thagarat, taking care of the cities, and they were living in those cities and civilizing the city, Umar wrote a letter directly to Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman and told him, don't let the people, he was married to a Christian, a Jew. He said, I want you to divorce that lady and be an example for the other people. I'm telling you as the Amir al-Mu'mineen, you divorce that lady first and don't let the Muslim men marry these women. Hudayfa said, but Amir al-Mu'mineen, Allah said this ayah in Surah Al-Ma'idah. Allah said, permissible for you to marry are the women who are chaste from Ahlul Kitab. You making it haram? No, I'm not making it haram. But if you, people like you, the leader, you marry these women, those who follow you are going to marry these women, and then the Muslim women are going to be left unmarried. They're going to be single. So the leader of the Muslims deemed it beneficial to step in because of a possible social problem. And he said, don't do this. Weighing the masalih and the mafasid. He stepped in and he said, this is a problem. So he didn't allow it. He didn't allow it because of the potential harm that would happen. So this is what the scholar said concerning the issue. There's a lot of other subsidiary issues in it. We just wanted to bring to your attention a few things. Number one, Akhi Kareem, number one, the religion doesn't encourage us to run out and get married to a Yahudiya or Nasraniya. It doesn't encourage that. Doesn't encourage that. Marry the woman who's on the deen. Birds of a feather flock together, inshallah. So don't go and think it's just open-ended. That's first thing. Second thing, we want you to remember here about this mas'ala is There are bona fide scholars and proofs on both sides. So if, and I've seen this, if you're of the opinion, these people are mushrikat, they're kuffar, these people make shirk with these people, we say, like Abdullah bin Umar said, he said that. But Allah mentioned ayahs in the Quran where He established that they're kuffar, they made shirk. Allah established that. لقد كفر الذين قالوا إن الله ثالث ثلاثة. They're disbelievers. It's not saying they're believers. They're making shirkum billah. No doubt about that. But the one who exposed their shirk and let us know they made shirk, the one who did that, Allah, also from His wisdom, allow that segment, that category of mushrik people, women, to be married. The last thing I want to bring to your attention is be careful, be careful, be careful with the people who go overboard and they make wholesale takfir. And as a result of making takfir, they make things haram based upon their ijtihad and their ta'wil. So their ta'wil is, the famous one here is, no, you can't marry a Christian woman or Yehudi woman because they're at war with us. No doubt, there's a war in Gaza. There is a war, battle. People are getting killed. No doubt about that. As for the, what do you call that? Ghazwatul Fikr, what do you call that again? Ideological wars. It's not talking about that. Not talking about an ideological war. It's talking about a real war of spread of connecting and engaging with the enemy. It's not talking about ideology. And I say, yes, there is an ideological war going on now. There's no doubt about that. And that's why it goes back to, it's disliked. It's disliked. All right, brothers, we're going to stop here, inshallah. And if you brothers have any questions about this, you can ask your question very quickly.